Hi guys! Welcome back to Hack TV. So this video is the part 2 ng Jumpstart with NodeJS series natin. Just a recap on our previous video, diniscuss ko kung ano at para saan si NodeJS, pinakita ko kung paano siya set up on your machine, and gumawa tayo ng first application that runs on NodeJS. Kung hindi pa napapanood yung first video, ilalagay natin yung link dito sa taas and pati na rin sa description below. For this video, pag-uusapan natin yung global objects, pati na rin yung scope ng variables. And i-discuss ko yung one important concepts ng Node.js, which is yung modules. But before we start, please hit the subscribe button and hit nyo na rin yung notification bell para ma-update din kayo sa future videos ng channel na to. So let's start! Let's go back on the code we created on our last video. On the first line, we declared the variable and assign a value on it. On the second line naman, we called the function console.log to print the hello world string. Now let me refactor the code a bit to explain yung scope ng variables. As you can see, I created the function say hello. Sa loob nun, I declared the variable message. Si variable message is an example of local scope variable. It means that this variable is only accessible sa loob ng function na to. So if I try to access the variable outside of the function like this, it will result to an error. So going back on the first line, si variable name naman is example of file scope variable. It means na pwede natin siya ma-access anywhere on the file, even inside of this function, without getting an error. Now that we understand the scope of variable, pag-usapan naman natin yung global object. Global object is readily available and can be accessed anywhere throughout the program. Currently on our example, meron lang tayong isang JavaScript file. But in reality, if you will work on a complex application, it is ideal to have multiple JavaScript files and segregate the functionalities of your program per file. In that way, mas madali mo ma-organize and ma-maintain yung application. So if you have multiple files, this global object is available and can be accessed dun sa mga files na meron ka sa program mo. So let's create an example. I will just delete this line. You access the global object through the global namespace. This namespace is available by default sa JavaScript program. So if you want to add a variable or a property inside of this object, you will do it like this. And you will assign a value. After this, si global var is now accessible throughout the program kahit sa ibang file. Now we create another JavaScript file. If I access the global object on this file, makikita natin na yung global var which we created on the previous file is available sa file na to. Let's try to print the value of this variable on the console. And we run it on Node para makita natin yung value ng variable na to and yung result ng code na to. Back on my command line, I will just type in the following command to run the code. Makikita nyo na the output is undefined. It is because the definition of a global variable is only available on the file where you defined it. Available siya kahit saan, pero yung definition will depend on the file kung saan mo siya gagamitin. Just a caution, using too much global variables can occupy too much resources and may result to a concurrency issue. So hindi talaga advisable to create and use a global variable like this, but we can maximize the use of Node.js global object built-in functions. One example of built-in global object that we can use is the console. Kung mapapansin nyo, kanina pa natin siya ginagamit on our program. But we never declare or reference any file para ma-access yung members ng object na to. By default, available na siya on our program. I will just update this line and will remove this para mapakita ko sa inyo yung iba pang members ng global object. Now, let's save this one. Back again on my command line, I will just run the same command. Makikita natin dito yung members ng global object. Meron tayong set timeout, set interval, clear timeout, clear interval. So yan yung mga functions na pwede natin magamit and makakatulong sa program natin. As I have mentioned, an application can consist of multiple JavaScript files. Those files were created based sa functionalities meron ng isang application. And those files were created with their own context. Each file, meron silang sariling members. Yun yung variables and functions that were created on that file. Initially, those members are private. It means na dun mo lang siya pwede gamitin and i-access on that file. This is called modularity. In NodeJS, we have a concept called modules. So yung mga JavaScript file na meron tayo sa application, it is considered a module. And it can be reused anywhere sa application natin. And every application will have its main module. On our case, ito yung my first node app.js. It will serve as an entry point to our program. Node.js also have its core module. Available siya right away kapag nag-start na yung process ng Node.js. I will discuss each of this module as we go along on this course. But for now, papakita ko muna sa inyo kung paano gumawa ng sariling module and gamitin on different parts of your application. And we're back again on our main module. Currently, meron lang tayong isang functionality inside of this module, and that is to print a string on our console. Now, I can foresee that this kind of functionality can be generic, and from time to time, maaari natin kailanganin yung ganitong functionality across our application. What I will do next is to create a module that will contain this kind of functionalities. In that way, magiging reusable siya across our application. Let's remove the lines and add a new module. I will name it as message logger. Just a tip on naming your file, make sure that the name will best describe yung functionality na meron yung file na yon or yung module na yon. In that way, mas madali mo ma-identify kung para saan yung module na yon. And in the future, in case may ma-encounter kang issues or bugs, kapag ito troubleshoot mo siya, mas madali mo malolocate kung saan mo siya aayusin. Let's define a variable. We will name it as generic message. Now, let's create a function that will print a message on our console. Basically, yung function natin will receive an argument, and it will print the value of the argument on the console. Now, meron na tayong variable and a function that will serve as members of our module. Currently, yung mga members na yon is only accessible inside of this module. But gusto natin siyang ma-access and gamitin on our main module. In order to do that, kailangan natin i-expose yung mga members or yung mga functions na kailangan natin outside. But before I show you on how to do that, I will show you something. Let's print the module object on our console. Let's run our module. On the output, makikita natin dito yung module object. It contains members that will describe our module. What I want to point out here is the exports object. This is the object that will be accessed by different module. Currently wala pa siyang laman. Pero dito natin makikita yung mga members or yung mga objects that were exposed outside of that module. So kung gusto natin i-expose and gawin public yung mga members inside of that module, we need to add it on our exports object. Let's go back to our editor to show you on how to do that. On our main module, gusto natin magamit and ma-access si log message function of this module. To do that, we define the module.exports.logMessage. So on this part, we are defining a new object under the exports. By default, wala pa talaga tong log message object na to inside of it. So this is the time we are defining it. And after that, we will reference the actual function log message. So kung gusto din natin expose si generic message outside, we will do it similarly. So kung mapapansin nyo, unlike on the previous line, the object name I defined here is not similar to the object I am referencing. Tinatawag natin siyang aliasing. In programming, ginagamit natin si aliasing para pag nag-expose tayo ng object outside, mas madaling maintindihan ng user na yon kung para saan talaga yung object na yon. So yung mga object na to under the exports are considered public interface. Since si log message function muna ang gusto natin ma-access, we will remove this line. And we will move this code after this line. So now let's go back to our command line to run the code. We just run the same command. So in the output, mapapansin natin si exports object nagbago na siya. Meron na siyang bagong object which is the log message function that is now ready to access by outside module. Tanggalin muna natin tong line na to and let's save this one. On our main module, to access the message logger, we will define first an object. We will name it as logger. And we will call the require function. Si require function, nag-expect siya ng one parameter, which is the location ng module na gusto natin i-reference. On this case, si message logger is on the same folder nung main module natin. So we will just type in the dot followed by a slash. On the IntelliSense, makikita na natin si message logger.js. We will just select it. So si require function will return the exports object nung module na yon. Now that we already loaded the message logger module, we can now access the log message function. To do that, just access the logger object, followed by the dot. Then makikita na natin sa IntelliSense si log message function. Let's pass a parameter. And save this one. Let's now run our main module. And that's our expected output. We successfully access the log message function from the main module. So dito ko muna tatapusin yung video na to. I hope na nag-enjoy kayo and may natutunan sa video na to. So on our next video, pag-uusapan naman natin yung mga core modules ng NodeJS. Kung nagustuhan mo yung video na to, please click the like button and i-share nyo na rin to sa mga friends nyo na gusto matuto ng programming. Before I wrap up this video, gusto muna magbigay ng special shoutout kay Miss Mhel of Mhel's World for promoting this channel on one of her videos. So subscribe na rin kayo sa channel niya. So kita-kits ulit tayo sa susunod natin video. Bye-bye!